You guys know I love Cattleya orchids. 80% of my collection is a Cattleya orchid, and I love them because they're fragrant. They have big flowers. I just find some of them so vigorous. I have a lot of hybrids like this one. This one is the Cattleya labiata by Richard Mueller. You guys know I love Richard Mueller hybrids. They're easy, but in some cases, Cattleyas can have their difficult moments. So I'm talking about when we're trying to repot them, especially bifoliate Cattleyas. I repotted a lot of orchids this year. And when you repot an orchid, sometimes you set them back and they get stressed out. So in today's video, I wanted to share a tip that I learned that I'm going to start implementing next year, because I think it's a tip that a lot of people don't think about, but it's so easy. You have nothing to lose in doing it. And it keeps your orchids nice and healthy and sets them up for success when you repot them. So let's get into it. Okay. So like I said, I think Cattleyas are easy to grow because they're drought tolerant. And once they're repotted, they're great. But in some cases, when you repot them, they completely dump their roots. And the thing is, when you're repotting an orchid, you really want them to have good roots. You don't want them to be in flower when you repot them. I made that mistake 2 years ago with this orchid. This orchid is bouncing back on me. This is my key lime stars. I repotted it when it was actually in flower. So the orchids sometimes put their energy in flowering, or they'll put their energy in their roots. They're not going to prioritize both all the time. So in the case of the key lime stars, it's a Brassivola hybrid. And I thought, oh, it's a Brassivola. It doesn't matter. It's going to be easy. I repotted it while it was in flower. And to my surprise, it declined a lot. It started losing leaves. I had to put it in like a humidity dome. It was terrible, but it finally bounced back. So one thing I'll tell you guys just off the bat, I wouldn't repot a Cattleya that's in flower because they're more sensitive. Phalaenopsis, you could usually get away with it, but Cattleyas, even hybrids, they're way more sensitive to that sort of thing. So you got to be careful. That being said, I divided and repotted a ton of orchids this spring and summer. And some of them, I divided them without having a new growth. And whenever you cut a rhizome of a Cattleya orchid, it promotes growth. So I didn't have new growths on this one, but I knew it was vigorous. I mean, that's probably what I say all the time. Oh, it's fine. It's a hybrid. But I end up pushing the envelope a bit too much sometimes. So this one, I did not have new growths when I divided it. When I divided it, it pushed out these two growths here. I knew it was going to be okay, but I started thinking about a tip that my friend shared with me a couple of years ago. She got this from the Colombian Orchid Society, and I never forgot it, and I have to implement it with my repots next year. Once you have a Cattleya orchid and you want to repot it, generally you want to see a new growth coming in with new roots, and then that will mean that those new roots will adapt to the new pot when you repot, right? In some cases, you're not going to have that, especially like me with a big collection. I have a lot of orchids. And sometimes they'll grow a new growth and I don't have another new growth and I just want to repot it because it already grew outside of the pot, or the media might be breaking down. And the thing is, when I did it with this one as well, this one is my Cattleya facellis. I repotted it. It's pushing out new growths. But when you don't have a brand new root system, when you repot, the back bulbs will start fading, and the orchid is gonna basically use the back bulbs for energy, and then the leaves will fall off. And that's okay, that's normal. But here's a better way to think about it. If you're about to repot an orchid and you don't have a new growth, what you can do is you can get your cutting tool and then you can cut the rhizome right while it's in the pot. So if you're here, I mean, generally you want like at least 4 growths, minimum 3. I would say 4 or 5 would be ideal with a Cattleya orchid on each side. You take your cutting tool, you can go right into the rhizome, and then you trim it right in the pot. what that does is when you trim that rhizome, it's telling the orchid, okay, I need to push out another growth. I need to push new roots. And then it'll start pushing new growths on each side. So that way, if you're about to divide your orchid, you're going to have those new growths already. And then that way, the orchid will adapt easily and you don't have to worry about waiting for the orchid to push out new roots while you've already damaged some of the old roots. And for the most part, orchids are hardy, especially Cattleyas, but bifoliates in particular, they can be set back if you don't do it the right way. Don't ever repot them when they're in flower. But to get ahead of the game, if you don't have any new growths yet and you want to divide an orchid, or you did not repot it in time, trim that rhizome right in the middle. Make sure you have at least 4 growths, I'd say, on each side. And the orchid will start promoting a growth on each side. And once you see it, once you have new roots, then you can repot it. I'm going to keep this video short and sweet today. Let me know if you've ever done this. And if you do, let me know what the results are. Once you trim that rhizome, you're going to have new growths on each side in a couple of weeks, and you can get to repotting. So this is a tip that you guys can keep in mind when we head into winter and you start planning your spring repots. If you don't have growths yet, something to think about. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye, everyone.